The photograph would haunt her forever. Elena's hands trembled as she lowered her camera, the autumn breeze carrying an unfamiliar tension across the abandoned pier. She'd been chasing the perfect shot of Chicago's skyline at dusk, drawn to this forgotten stretch of waterfront by the play of dying light on broken concrete. Instead, her lens had found something she was never meant to see. 3 men in expensive suits, one kneeling, and him, standing with a weapon she couldn't quite make out in the fading light, his posture suggesting something terrible was about to happen. The shooter turned slowly, almost lazily, as if he had all the time in the world. Even from 50 feet away, Elena could see his face with painful clarity, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that reflected no light. Black hair swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers, not crime scenes. He was younger than she expected someone in his position to be, maybe 30. Beautiful, in the way a blade is beautiful. Their eyes met. Elena ran. Her boots pounded against wet pavement as she clutched her camera to her chest. Behind her, she heard shouting in Korean, then English. "Get her!" She'd grown up in these streets, knew every alley in South Side Chicago, but her pursuers were faster. A hand grabbed her jacket. She spun, swinging her camera bag like a weapon. It connected with someone's jaw with a satisfying crack. "Feisty," a voice said, amused. Then someone grabbed her arms, restraining her. But not fast enough. Elena struggled against the iron grip. The cold press of metal against her side made her freeze. "Turn around slowly." The accent was slight, refined. "Let's see the face of the woman foolish enough to photograph Min-jun Park." She turned. Up close, he was even more striking, and more terrifying. His white shirt had dark stains she didn't want to identify. His expression held no emotion whatsoever, as if he'd just been discussing the weather rather than whatever had transpired on that pier. "Please," Elena whispered. "I didn't see anything. I'll delete the photos. I swear I won't." "You'll delete nothing." He gestured to one of his men. "The camera." "No!" She clutched it tighter. It was her grandmother's, the only thing she had left of her. "Please, not the camera. Take the memory card. Take whatever you want, but—" He studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes cataloging every detail of her face. "You're not from around here." The accent. "Mississippi." "Georgia," she said automatically, then cursed herself for answering. "Georgia." He repeated it like he was tasting the word. What's a girl from Georgia doing taking photographs in the wrong part of Chicago at sunset? "I didn't mean to. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time." He lowered his weapon. "Unfortunately for you, I can't let witnesses walk away, even pretty ones with southern accents." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "So what are you going to do? With me?" "I'm considering my options." He tilted his head. "You have beautiful eyes. It would be a waste to let you disappear." The casual way he discussed her fate made her anger override her fear. "If you're going to hurt me, just do it. Don't toy with me first." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or interest. "What's your name? Does it matter?" "It does if I'm going to let you live." Hope sparked in her chest. Elena, right. Elena. The way he said her name, slow and deliberate, made her shiver. "I'm Min-jun, but you already know that. You photographed me at a very inconvenient moment, which makes you either very unlucky or very stupid. Which is it?" "Unlucky," she said firmly. He smiled then, a brief flash of white teeth that didn't reach his eyes. "We'll see. Jay, bring the car. Miss Wright is coming with us." "Wait, what? No, You have 2 choices, Elena from Georgia. Come quietly or be carried. Either way, you're not leaving." Before you continue, if you're enjoying this story, drop a like and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. 20 minutes later, Elena sat in the back of a black Mercedes, wedged between two silent men in suits. Min-jun sat in front, speaking rapid Korean into his phone. She caught only fragments. Her name, something about complications, and a word that sounded like safe house. The car pulled up to a mansion in Min-jun Park, the kind of property that cost more than Elena would earn in 10 lifetimes. Wrought iron gates opened automatically. Manicured gardens stretched in every direction. "Welcome to your new home," Min-jun said, opening her door. "Temporarily, at least. I have a home, an apartment in Pilsen. I have a job. I have had," he corrected gently. "Past tense. Until I decide what to do with you, you're a guest here. A heavily supervised guest." A woman appeared at the door. Korean, 50s, impeccably dressed. She looked Elena up and down with obvious disapproval. They exchanged words in Korean. The woman's tone was sharp, questioning. Min-jun's response was firm. "Mrs. Choi will show you to your room," he said finally. "Don't try to leave. Don't try to contact anyone. Don't make me regret being merciful." "This is mercy?" Elena's voice cracked. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and cedar-scented. "The man you saw me with tonight? He betrayed me. Sold information to my enemies that got 3 of my people hurt. What happened to him was necessary. That's the world I live in, Elena. If I wanted to be cruel, you'd know it." She swallowed hard. "What are you? Mafia?" "Close enough." He brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear, the gesture strangely intimate. "Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning." Elena didn't sleep. She spent the night exploring her prison, a bedroom larger than her entire apartment, decorated in cream and gold, with a bathroom that had heated floors and a shower with 6 different jets. The windows didn't open, the door locked from the outside. She sat on the bed, still clutching her camera, and went through the photos. There he was, frozen in pixels. Min-jun Park, whoever he really was, captured in a moment she shouldn't have witnessed. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But something else simmered beneath the fear. When their eyes had met on that pier, when he'd looked at her like he was memorizing her face, she'd felt something she'd never felt before. Recognition. As if some dark part of her recognized the darkness in him. "You're being ridiculous," she whispered to herself. "Stockholm Syndrome, that's all this is." But she couldn't stop looking at his face in the photograph. Morning came with a knock at the door. Mrs. Choi entered with a tray of food and a set of clothes. Jeans, a soft sweater, all in Elena's exact size. "How did you—" "Mr. Park is very thorough," Mrs. Choi said in heavily accented English. "You eat. He wants to see you in 1 hour." The clothes fit perfectly. Of course they did. Elena descended the grand staircase an hour later, her heart in her throat. A man waited at the bottom. Not Min-jun, but someone almost as intimidating. Tall, muscular, with a scar running down his left cheek. "I'm Jae-sung," he said, "Mr. Park's head of security. This way." He led her through the mansion to a study lined with books. Min-jun sat behind a massive desk, wearing a black turtleneck that made him look more like a CEO than a criminal. He was reading something on his computer, his expression focused. "Sit," he said, without looking up. Elena sat in the leather chair across from him, waited. He kept reading, and she realized it was a power play, making her wait, making her nervous. "You went to the Art Institute of Chicago," he said finally, looking at her. "Graduated top of your class. You work 3 jobs, administrative assistant, weekend barista, and freelance photographer. You send money home to your mother in Atlanta every month. You're 22 years old. You've never been in trouble with the law. Never even had a parking ticket. Elena's blood ran cold. You had me investigated. Overnight. I had you investigated while you were in the car. I told you. I'm thorough. He stood, walking around the desk to lean against it, arms crossed. You're exactly what you appear to be. An innocent who stumbled into something dangerous. Then let me go. I can't. Why not? Because you saw me, Elena. You saw what I did. And in my world, witnesses don't get to walk away and promise to keep secrets. But you said, I said I was considering letting you live. I never said I'd let you go. He moved closer, and Elena forced herself not to shrink back. The man on that pier worked for the Volkov family. Russian organized crime operating in my territory. What happened sends a message, but your photographs, those could be used against me. By police, by rivals, by anyone who wants to take what's mine. I already offered to delete them. And I don't trust that you won't have backups. Cloud storage, external drives, email, drafts. He crouched in front of her chair, bringing them eye to eye. So, here's what's going to happen. You'll stay here where I can see you, where I know you're not talking to police or journalists or anyone else. And eventually, when I'm satisfied you're not a threat, maybe, I'll let you return to your little life. Elena's hands clenched into fists. That's kidnapping. Yes. His lips curved slightly. Add it to my list of crimes. You're a monster. I know. He stood, returning to his desk. But I'm a monster who's keeping you alive. Remember that. Jae-sung will show you the grounds. You have free range of the house and gardens. Just don't try to leave. Or what? His eyes met hers, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Don't make me show you, Elena. You won't like it. The next 3 days passed in a surreal blur. Elena explored the mansion, finding a library with first editions, a gym that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel, an indoor pool with a retractable roof. Mrs. Choi brought her meals, always perfectly prepared, always more food than she could eat. Jae-sung and other guards appeared and disappeared like shadows, and Min-jun was everywhere and nowhere. She'd catch glimpses of him, on phone calls in Korean that sounded like business negotiations, hosting meetings in his study with men in expensive suits, working out at dawn in the gym. That last image stayed with her longer than she wanted to admit. Even from a distance, she could see the scars that marked his body, evidence of a violent life. He caught her staring once, their eyes locked through the gym's glass door. He smiled, slow and knowing, and Elena fled to her room, like a coward. On the 4th night, she was summoned to dinner. The dining room could have seated 20, but only 2 places were set at one end of a table that gleamed like dark water. Min-jun was already seated, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her car. He stood when she entered, polite, like this was a normal dinner between normal people. Thank you for joining me, he said, pulling out her chair. Did I have a choice? No. He sat across from her. But I appreciate the illusion of civility. Mrs. Choi brought the first course, something that looked like art on a plate. Elena picked up her fork, then set it down. Why am I here? The real reason. I enjoy your company. You don't know me. I know you better than you think. He sipped his wine. You've been here 4 days and you haven't cried once. You haven't begged. You haven't tried to manipulate the gods. You're scared, but you're smart about it. That's unusual. What did you expect? A damsel having hysterics. Most people would. His gaze was steady, assessing. You're not most people, are you? Elena? She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because something in the way he looked at her made her feel exposed, like he could see past her skin to something underneath she didn't know existed. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think is happening between these two. And don't forget to like if you're hooked. The dinner continued in stretches of silence, broken by careful conversation. He asked about her photography, her favorite artists, why she'd left Georgia. She asked nothing, volunteering nothing, until the wine and his patient questioning wore down her defenses. My father died when I was 15, she found herself saying. Lung cancer. My mother worked 3 jobs to send me to art school, but it wasn't enough, so I work 3 jobs too. Send money home, try to build something that matters. Your art matters, does it? She laughed bitterly. I take pictures of buildings and bridges, of things that can't hurt me. Until you pointed your lens at me. Until that, she met his eyes. Can I ask you something? You can ask. I may not answer. Why did you become this? A criminal, whatever you are. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't respond. Then, I didn't have a choice. My family's been in this business for 3 generations. My grandfather built an empire. My father expanded it. And when he was taken from us by rivals when I was 16, I inherited his throne and his enemies. His jaw tightened. I was supposed to be a doctor. I had a scholarship to Northwestern. Instead, I learned how to survive before I learned how to drive. Elena saw something flicker in his eyes. Grief, maybe, or rage carefully controlled. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm good at what I do. He stood, walking to the window that overlooked the gardens. I've made peace with being the monster. Have you? The words escaped before she could stop them. Because monsters don't look like you do when they think no one's watching. He turned slowly. And how do I look? Lonely. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. Then he crossed to her, moving with that predatory grace she'd noticed on the pier. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. You should be more careful, Elena, he said softly. Seeing too much about me is dangerous. Everything about you is dangerous. Yes. His hand came up, fingertips tracing the line of her jaw. The touch was feather-light, barely there, but it sent electricity racing down her spine. So why aren't you running? Because I can't, she wanted to say. Because you've locked me in a cage. But that wasn't quite true anymore. The cage was bigger than she'd thought. Not just the mansion, but something else. Something that wrapped around her ribs and squeezed every time he looked at her like this. I don't know, she whispered. His thumb brushed across her lower lip. Liar. Then he stepped back, breaking whatever spell had fallen over them. You should rest. We have a problem tomorrow. What kind of problem? The kind that involves the Volkov family realizing one of their people went missing the same night you photographed me. They're asking questions, making threats. His expression hardened. You may have noticed increased security today. 20 guards instead of 10. Motion sensors on all the windows. That's because they're going to try something. Fear spiked through her. Try what? To take you. To hurt me through you. He moved to the door, paused. Don't worry, I don't lose what's mine. I'm not yours. He looked back and something in his eyes made her breath catch. Aren't you? Elena didn't sleep that night either. She lay awake, replaying the moment he'd touched her face, the heat in his eyes, the way her body had responded without permission. This was wrong, all of it. He was a criminal, her captor, someone who'd stolen her life and kept her locked away like a prize. But when she closed eyes, she didn't see the man on the pier with a weapon. She saw the loneliness in his face when he talked about his stolen future, the gentleness in his touch, the way he looked at her like she was something precious he didn't deserve to hold. You're being stupid, she told the ceiling. Textbook Stockholm Syndrome. That's all this is. The ceiling didn't answer. 3 a.m. brought shouting, the sound of something breaking. Elena bolted upright as her door crashed open. Jae-sung stood there, weapon drawn, face grim. "We're moving you. Now. What's happening?" Volkov's people breached the perimeter. Mr. Park's orders, you stay safe no matter what. He grabbed her arm, pulling her into the hallway. More sounds of chaos echoed from downstairs. Men in black tactical gear moved past them like ghosts. Elena's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. They reached a hidden door in the library. Of course, there was a hidden door, leading to a staircase that descended into darkness. Jae-sung pushed her forward. "Move!" They were halfway down when the explosion came. The force threw Elena against the wall. Her ears rang. Dust and smoke filled the stairwell. Jae-sung was shouting something, but she couldn't hear. Then hands grabbed her, not Jae-sung's hands, rougher, crueler, and dragged her back up the stairs. "Got her!" someone yelled in Russian-accented English. "The boss's little bird." Elena fought, kicked, scratched, bit down hard on a hand that covered her mouth. Someone struck her, stars exploding behind her eyes. She tasted blood. Then the world erupted in chaos. Min-jun appeared like something out of a nightmare, moving too fast to track. The man holding Elena went down hard. Another attacker rushed forward. Min-jun was faster. The sounds of the fight were brutal, efficient. 3 more men rushed the stairwell. Min-jun handled them all in the time it took Elena's shocked brain to process what she was seeing. He moved like someone trained for this their entire life, efficient, controlled, unstoppable. When the last attacker fell, he turned to her. For a moment, she saw the monster everyone feared. Then his expression cracked, something almost human breaking through. "Elena." He crossed to her, hands hovering like he was afraid to touch her. "Did they hurt you?" She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. I don't." He pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head. He was warm and solid and smelled like gunpowder and that cedar cologne. "You're safe. I have you. You're safe." Elena couldn't stop shaking. The ringing in her ears had faded, replaced by the thundering of her own heartbeat and the distant sounds of combat somewhere in the mansion. Min-jun held her tighter, his body a shield between her and the chaos surrounding them. "We need to move," Jae-sung said, emerging from the smoke with torn clothing, evidence of his own fight. "They sent a second team around the back." Min-jun nodded once, then swept Elena into his arms like she weighed nothing. "Safe room. Now." They moved through the mansion's hidden passages, a maze Elena hadn't known existed. Behind them, the sounds of conflict continued in sporadic bursts. Min-jun's jaw was set, his focus absolute. Every few steps, he looked down at her as if checking she was still real, still breathing. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like. Steel-reinforced walls, enough supplies for a week. Monitors showing every angle of the property. Min-jun set her down gently on a leather sofa, then immediately returned to the screens, barking orders in Korean to the men who'd followed them in. Elena watched him transform. The gentle hands that had held her became instruments giving commands. His voice, which had been soft with her, now cut like a blade through steel. This was who he really was. Not the lonely man who'd touched her face at dinner, but the king of an empire built on survival. "Status," he demanded. 12 hostiles down, Jae-sung reported. 3 escaped, no casualties on our side. Find the 3 who ran. I want names, addresses, connections, and find out who gave them our security protocols. Min-jun's eyes were chips of black ice. Someone betrayed us. Someone answers for it. Elena hugged herself, suddenly cold, despite the room's climate control. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind the reality of what she'd witnessed. The violence in the stairwell, Min-jun moving through attackers like a force of nature. The efficiency with which he'd dismantled trained operatives. He turned, catching her expression. Something shifted in his face. "Everyone out! Now!" The room emptied in seconds. Then it was just the two of them, the monitors painting them in blue light, the aftermath playing out on screens while silence pressed down like a weight. "Say it," Min-jun said quietly. "Say what?" "That you're terrified of me. That you've finally seen what I really am." He stood, perfectly still, hands at his sides, waiting for her judgment. "That you want to leave and never see me again." Elena should agree, should beg to be released, to return to her small, safe life where violence was something that happened to other people. But when she looked at him, exhausted, eyes holding something raw and vulnerable, the words that came out were different. "You saved me. I put you in danger in the first place. They came for me because of you, yes, but you also fought for me." She stood on shaking legs. "Why? I told you. I don't lose what's mine." "Stop saying that. I'm not your possession. I'm not—" Her voice cracked. "Why do you care if I live or die?" He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, framing her face with hands that trembled slightly. "Because when I look at you, I see something I thought was gone forever. Something clean, something good." His forehead touched hers. "Because you look at me like I'm still human, and I've needed that more than oxygen. Min-jun, I know it's wrong. I know keeping you here is unforgivable. But I'm a selfish man, Elena, and I'm not ready to let you disappear." His breath ghosted across her lips. "Tell me to stop. Tell me you hate me. Give me a reason to walk away." She should. Every rational thought screamed at her to push him away, to maintain the distance that kept her safe. But her hands had other ideas, sliding up his chest to rest against his racing heart. "I can't," she whispered. The kiss was inevitable. His lips claimed hers with a hunger that stole her breath, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pulled her flush against him. She tasted desperation and need, and something that called to a part of her she'd kept buried her whole life. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes searched hers. "This is your last chance. I need you to understand. If we do this, if we cross this line, I won't be able to let you go. Ever." "That sounds like a threat." "It's a promise." His thumb traced her swollen lower lip. "I'll be obsessed with you, possessive. I'll want every part of your life intertwined with mine. I'll be the worst thing that ever happened to you." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was madness, a disaster waiting to happen. And what if I want that? What if I'm tired of being safe? Something blazing and possessive flared in his eyes. Then God help us both. If you're still watching, drop a like and comment what you think happens next. And subscribe so you don't miss any of our stories. He led her to his private quarters, a space she'd never seen, all dark wood and darker colors. The room spoke of wealth and solitude, a place where he retreated from the world. They stood facing each other, the air between them charged with everything unspoken. Min-jun reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with infinite gentleness. "I need you to be sure," he said, his voice rough. "Because once I claim you as mine, I won't be able to be rational about you. I won't be able to let you walk away. I know what I'm choosing. I know what you are." She stepped closer until no space remained between them. "And I'm choosing this anyway." The sound he made was halfway between relief and surrender. Then his mouth was on hers again, and the world narrowed to just this. his hands in her hair, her fingers clutching his shirt, the way he held her like she was both precious and essential. "Stay," he murmured against her lips. "Not as my captive, as my choice. Let me give you everything. Even if it's dangerous. Especially then." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "I'll keep you safe. I'll give you the world. Just stay." Elena looked at this man who'd turned her life upside down, who'd shown her darkness, and somehow made her feel more alive than she'd ever felt. Yes. That single word changed everything. The next morning, Elena woke in Min-jun's arms, sunlight streaming through windows she hadn't noticed the night before. He was already awake, watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. "Good morning," she whispered. "It is now." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I need to handle some things today. The people who came after you last night. They won't get another chance. What are you going to do?" "What I do best. Remind them why my family has held power for 3 generations. His arms tightened around her. "But you're going to stay exactly where I can protect you until every threat is handled." The next 2 weeks blurred together. Min-jun waged his war with surgical precision. Volkov operations shut down across the city. Their supply lines severed, their leadership forced to negotiate. He came to her each evening carrying the weight of his world, and she gentled him back to something resembling peace. They fell into a rhythm. Days spent with her exploring art again. He'd converted a room into a studio, filled it with equipment and supplies she'd only dreamed of owning. Nights spent together, talking until dawn, learning each other's stories, building something neither had expected. "I should feel guilty," Elena confessed one evening, watching Chicago's skyline from his bedroom window. "For staying, for wanting this." Min-jun came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Do you?" "No, and that scares me more than anything. You're not the girl who accidentally photographed a crime anymore." He turned her to face him. "You've seen the darkness and didn't run. That changes a person." "Into what?" "Into someone strong enough to stand beside someone like me." He kissed her softly. "Into my partner, if you'll have me." Elena looked at this man who'd stolen her freedom and somehow given her something bigger, purpose, passion, a connection as dangerous as it was absolute. "What are you asking? Stay. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Be mine in every way that matters. Let me give you everything I have, broken as it may be." Before she could answer, Jae-sung knocked urgently. "We found him. The traitor. He's been working for Volkov since before that night on the pier. He gave them everything. Security protocols, schedules, information about her." Min-jun's face went cold, dangerous. He kissed Elena once, possessive and claiming. "Wait here. This won't take long." "Min-jun, I know what you're going to ask." He cupped her face. "And the answer is no. You don't need to see this part of my life. Some things should stay separate." He left. Elena stood at the window staring at her reflection. She knew what was happening below. Knew what Min-jun was capable of. The violence that lived in him. Necessary for the world he inhabited. She didn't look away from her reflection. Didn't pretend she didn't understand. Just stood there and accepted the truth. She loved a dangerous man, and she was going to stay. When he returned an hour later, the coldness still lingering in his eyes, she met him at the door. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll be yours. Yes to all of it." The coldness shattered. He pulled her into an embrace that spoke of relief and devotion, and forever. "You're sure? Because there's no going back after this, Elena. I'll make you mine so completely, the whole world knows. You'll be part of this life." "I know," she smiled against his shoulder. I'm choosing it anyway. I'm choosing you. Make sure to hit that like button if you loved this story. Drop a comment telling us your favorite moment and where you're watching from. 6 months later, Elena stood in a garden full of white roses, wearing a dress that felt like a dream. Min-jun waited at an altar covered in flowers, looking at her like she was his entire world. The guests were an interesting mix. Dangerous men and elegant women who'd come to witness Min-jun Park claim his bride. But Elena only had eyes for him. When they exchanged vows, his were in Korean. Ancient words about protection and promises and partnership. Hers were simpler. I see you, all of you, and I choose this. He kissed her like he was sealing a promise with the universe. Like he was claiming her heart. Mine, he whispered against her lips. Forever, she whispered back. The reception was beautiful. Music and dancing and toasts in multiple languages. Elena danced with her new husband under strings of lights, choosing passion over safety, danger over predictability, and never once regretting the photograph that had changed everything. As the evening drew to a close, Min-jun pulled her aside to a quiet corner of the garden. Happy? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. But yes, so happy. Good. He tucked a flower behind her ear. Because this is just the beginning. I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you what it means to be loved by someone like me. Someone dangerous. Someone who would burn the world down to keep you safe. He smiled, and for once it reached his eyes. Someone who was lost until he found you. Elena looked at her husband. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd kidnapped her and somehow set her free, and knew she'd made the right choice. Love wasn't always safe. Sometimes it was dark and possessive and fierce. Sometimes it was perfect. They stood together in the garden as stars appeared overhead. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. The girl with a camera and the man who'd taken her picture, and her freedom and, eventually, her heart. And somewhere in the distance, the city lights of Chicago sparkled like promises, like possibilities, like a future they'd write together, one dangerous, beautiful moment at a time. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed Elena and Min-jun's story, smash that like button, subscribe for more romantic stories, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and which part was your favorite. See you in the next story.